Do you have some sort of anger management problem? Monkey?
This is Gara.
Was the lie, you wimps. How the hell are ya? So you clicked on this video for one out of 3 reasons. 1. You want to know how Gara works. 2. You are here for that premium verbal abuse. Or 3. Both of the previous mentions. Well, worry not, I got you covered. Gara is a versatile frame that you can build and play almost however you want. Building her badly is almost impossible, but then again, you probably struggle to cook a cup of instant ramen. In my opinion, there are 2 builds that benefit you the most. One would be a defensive supporter build and the other would be damage. The damage build is not very easy to play and will probably get most noobs killed quickly. You will also eventually run into trouble when the enemies outclass your super high damage. So I will cover the damage build in another video. In this one, I will stick with the more accessible build that gets the job done. Now then, since most of you play Warframe like a religious fanatic, it should not be any trouble for you to run bounties 1 billion times on the planes to acquire her parts. Gara's passive ability is the occasional radial blind due to light reflecting off of her glass lady parts. This is pretty dope and procs very often, especially if you are an active player. Gara's first ability is basically a version of smack my bitch up.
What is the 5 fingers say to the face? What? Slap!
Hold the ability to slap everything in front of you upside the head like a naughty red-headed stepchild. This attack will deal / damage to everything it hits, so you already know that it is a better attack. If you tap the ability, however, well then you basically toss a glass shard at a single target's face. Perhaps Gara is Russian because that sounds like your average Russian party to me. Shattered Lash will adopt any physical damage mods you have on your melee weapon, including the critical multiplier and also some arcanes. To be honest, it is not really worth building specifically for damage anyway, so you can easily just use your favorite melee with whatever build you have, and be good to go. Shattered Lash provides quick cheap crowd control comparable to Mag's Pull. Sure, it will also completely slaughter star chart sissies, but in later steel path it will begin to lack a bit. Next ability. HD 189733B. Gara becomes an alien from HD 189733B and creates a glass storm around Gara that slices enemies. If only the enemies were wet pieces of tissue paper, otherwise the slicing of this ability feels more like dull toothpicks being shot at you with an old as the fuck blow dryer. However, that's not what one would use it for anyway. You see, Splinter Storm also reduces incoming damage by 70%. You can cap this out at 90% by increasing ability strength to 129% or higher. Allies in squads, or just your local perverts who sexualize Warframe somehow who come in contact with you while the ability is active will also adopt the damage reduction. Or you could keep them from needing to invade your personal space like that fucking rapist Simmery's.
Hunter, this target is my current obsession. I must know its every detail.
By simply casting Splinter Storm on them. For enemies affected by this ability, you get the opposite result. Enemies will take more damage from all sources if they are affected by Splinter Storm, which they will be under normal circumstances since you will have this ability on all the time. Unless you like playing Bleed Out Cowboy and just lay there like a Swedish hooker. If you do want this ability to deal mention-worthy damage, then you can exacerbate it by casting your 4th, stepping out of the ring and then shatter it with your 1st. You can repeat this as often as you want, which means you could ramp up the damage as high as you want to. Doing this, if not for the damage alone, will also benefit your synergy since casting your Glass Lord of the Rings will also refresh the timer on your Splinter Storm. Easy. That's about all you need to know here. Let's move on. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the ugliest motherfucker of them all?
Fuck Jake Paul! Fuck Jake Paul! Fuck Jake Paul! Fuck Jake Paul! Fucking dork!
Gara Gara summons a few Harry Potter mirrors at a targeted location. The mirrors form a circle and attract enemies within range to enter the center of the ring. This is first and foremost a crowd control. Now there is more to it than meets the eye, but unfortunately, you will almost never want or need this in higher levels, as all it does is cost energy and die within 1 second. On lower levels you can do some interesting shit with this though. As I said, this is crowd control more than anything. The mirrors will provoke enemies to fire at them instead of you. Upon taking the maximum damage a mirror can take, it will shatter and deal damage to the fool that cracked it. After 6 or so mirrors are destroyed, the rest of the carousel will collapse and deal damage to everyone within range. Now, if you have your second ability active and you are nearby, shattering mirrors will bestow some of their damage onto your Splinter Storm, making it deal more DPS. You could also cast Splinter Storm on the goons within the mirror carousel of horrors, debuffing them in the process and causing them to take more damage from collapse. It is less potent than the strategy I mentioned earlier, but therefore it is more passive and cheaper to ramp up damage. More range means more mirrors, which means more crowd control by the way. Regardless, I cannot recommend using this in that way in later game. For regular star chart though, it is a godly defense option. Next ability. Mass Vitrify. I cannot think of anything funny to say about Mass Vitrify, so I guess I will tell you a glass joke that I found on Google. Kidding, you do not deserve to laugh. Gara casts an expanding ring of molten glass that solidifies once it reaches its maximum range. Any enemy caught by the expanding ring will solidify within 3 seconds of touching it. After expansion, the ring becomes a barrier against all enemies who can no longer pass through it. Now, although this sounds fine and dandy and all, true pros will not use this for the barrier. Why? Well, despite the fact that the barrier will scale off of some of your mods, such as steel fiber or intensify, and also will scale off of enemies caught in it, the resulting barrier is still weak at higher levels. At low levels you will be fine, of course. But if you want to flex on your average plebs, then you will cast this ability in the air to create high walls, and 2, you will use the solidification as your main means of controlling an angry mob. Last time I checked, assholes that cannot move at all are less of a threat than ones that can bust through a window like hillbillies on a Black Friday sale. So you should always try to glass as many fools as you can. If you succeed, the dudes you catch in glass also take more damage from all sources. So there is that. Now here is one of my builds. Remember, Gara can be built and played in a number of ways and is hard to screw up. So I wholeheartedly encourage you to do whatever the fuck you want. In the right hands, Gara will lay waste to everything the universe can throw at you while dazzling foes in a glistening sparkle of pain and agony. There you go. You can now go forth and be a good Gara player. Before you go, do not forget to like and subscribe to this shitty channel and fuck off.